Hey y'all, it's Miss A. Today our topic is comparing and ordering integers. I do hope that this video is better than the previous ones. I noticed that the video is lagging. Like you can hear me talking, but sometimes the screen freezes. So I'm hoping that having my lights off from the beginning will keep that from happening, but we shall see. Fingers crossed. So like I said, today our topic is comparing and ordering integers. Of course, my at-home learners, make sure you are taking notes. You don't have to write every single thing down, but definitely write down the examples and anything up here that you find useful. My in-person kids, of course, you have this paper in front of you, so make sure you're taking notes and following along with me. All right, so today we're comparing and ordering integers. One thing that's really helpful to do this is to look at a number line, because the number line automatically puts integers in order from least to greatest. So without even hesitating, if you can look at a number line and place the integers on it, it'll put them in order for you. Now, if you're going greatest to least, make sure you look from the right going over to the left, okay? So least is on the left, greatest is on the right. Every time you move, so from 0, when you move further to the left, your numbers are getting smaller. And as you move further to the right, your numbers are getting bigger. That's why it orders it from least to greatest. So right here in this box, it says when a number is on the left of a number line, or it's on the left compared to the other number, it is less than. So for example, if we have -9 here and -5 is what they said. So -9 is to the left of -5. So -9 is smaller than -5. The reason that is because -9 is further away from 0. The farther away you get from 0, the smaller the number is getting. So because 5 is a little bit closer than 9 is, 5 is the greater value. All right, so then we're going to look at these symbols. We're going to use these 3 symbols down here for these 6 examples. The first symbol is the less than symbol. The next is greater than. And the last one is equal to. These symbols kind of get hard to read, like students don't know when they see just this symbol which one it is. So one thing that I say to remember is look at the side that comes first. So the small side comes first, so it's the less than symbol. But over here, the wide side comes first, so that's the greater than symbol. That's just one way you can remember it. So anytime you see the small side first, it's less than. The big side first is greater than. So we're going to use these symbols to use the symbols above to make the statements below true. Number 1 says -3 and +7. -3 and +7. First of all, a positive is always greater than a negative. So we're going to use this symbol because -3 is less than 7. If you remember back from elementary school, they probably used the phrase, the alligator eats the bigger number. So if that helps you know which way to face your inequality sign, think of that, okay? So 7 is greater, so we're going to use the less than symbol here. -3 is less than 7. Or the alligator eats the 7 because it's bigger. All right, number 2, we have +9 and -10. Again, a positive is always greater than a negative. So we're going to flip it this way now. Because 9 is greater than -10. The alligator eats the bigger number. All right, number 3, we have 2 negatives. So these get a little bit trickier. -4 and -9. So if we look at those numbers here, we've got -4 here and -9. So remember, the closer to 0, the greater the value. So -4, -9. -4 is closer to 0, so it is greater. So -4 is greater than -9. All right, here we have 2 negative numbers, -2 and -2. So these two are equal. Number 5, we have -7 and -4. So again, 2 negatives. So -7 is here, -4 is here. -4 is a little bit closer to 0, so it is greater. like that. Negative 7 is less than negative 4. And then we have negative 1 and negative 3. So negative 1, negative 3, negative 1 is closer to 0, making it the greater value. Negative 1 is greater than negative 3. So remember, when you have two negatives, the closer to 0, the greater the value. The closer to 0, the greater the value. Only with negatives. Positives, that doesn't matter. Y'all know how to compare positives. The bigger the number, the bigger the value. But negatives are tricky, so the closer to 0, the greater the value. All right, now we're going to put some integers in order. For these three, we want to put them in order from least to greatest. So one thing we need to make sure that we're aware of, especially when they mix positives and negatives, sometimes y'all forget, like y'all don't see that negative is there, so you sometimes will mix them. But when we're going least to greatest, my negatives are going to be my least value and my greatest are going to be my positives. We're going to see later on that we're going to have only negatives, so we're going to have to think a little bit harder. But just make sure you always put your negatives first and your positives at the end whenever you're going least to greatest. All right, so right here we have negative 3, 5, negative 1, and 6. So here are my three negatives. So I know I'm going to list those first because I'm going least to greatest. All right, so I'm going to just do this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. All right, my least one is going to be the one farthest away from 0. Farthest away from 0. So negative 3, negative 1, and negative 6. It might be helpful if you actually place them on a number line. If you're using your pencil, you can erase your dots every time you do it. Negative 3 is here. 5 is here. Negative 1 and negative 6. So once you have them placed on your number line, all you have to do is read them from least to greatest. Negative 6, negative 3, negative 1, and then 5. Again, if you have a pencil, you can erase those dots. I'm using a marker, so it's kind of harder. So these numbers are in order from least to greatest. Negative 6 is farthest on the left. Then we get a little bit closer to negative 3, negative 1, and then 5 is the greatest. All right, the second one. Again, we have 4 numbers. We're again going least to greatest. So I know my least are going to be my negatives. I've got 2 negatives only, so that's good. So my least negative is the one farthest away from 0. So what's farther away from 0? Negative 4 or negative 9? Here's negative 4. Here's negative 9. Which one's farther away from 0? The negative 9, so that's the least. Then comes my negative 4. Might be helpful to cross them off so you don't accidentally use them more than once. And now least to greatest is 2 and then 7. Here we have 5 numbers. Again, we're going least to greatest, but we notice there are no positives here. So everything is going to be over here to the left of 0. So remember, the least value is the one farthest away from 0. So which one of these would be farthest away from 0? Negative 8. Okay, if I were to walk a little bit closer, my next number I would come to would be negative 5. If I keep walking a little bit more to the right, my next number I would come to would be negative 3. Then I would come to negative 2. And then my last value would be negative 1. So again, when you place these numbers on a number line, they should be, I'll circle them up here. So negative 8, negative 5, negative 3, negative 2, and negative 1. Notice how they go in order. 8, 5, 3, 2, 1, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1. All right, and the last three, we're going to put them in order from greatest to least. Greatest to least. So that's going to be my positives if I have any, and my least would be my negatives. We have 5 numbers. You don't have to do this step. This is just something that I find helpful. My greatest value is going to be my positives. So I have negative, negative, negative. So my positives would be here. My greatest value is 7. And then 4. All right, now we're going greatest to least with my negatives. So the greatest value, remember up here, the greatest value is the one closest to 0. So which one of these would be closest to 0? -1. All right, which one of these would be closest to 0? -6. And then leaving us with -8. So if we were starting on the left side of our, the right side of our number line, because we're going greatest, we would come to 7. Our next number that we had, I know you can't see it, here it is. We had 7, and then we went to 4, then we went to -1, then we went to -6, and then we ended at -8. If you find yourself jumping back and forth, you would know you'd done it wrong. Something was wrong. All right, number 11. Again, we have 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going greatest to least. I do have a mixture, so my greatest has to be my positive numbers. There's only 2. So my greatest value is 6, followed by 5. And then I have 3 negatives. My greatest negative is the one closest to 0. So closest to 0 will be -2, then -4, and then -10. And then the last example, again, we have 5 numbers. We're going to go greatest to least. We have negative numbers and then a 0. So one thing that kids can get confused on is they think that 0 can't be the biggest number, but in this case it is, because everything else was negative. So 0 is the greatest value. Now my next greatest is the one that's closest to 0, so that would be -1 would be closest to 0. And then if I go a little bit further, so again looking up here, we're going greatest to least, so we're moving from here to the left, 0, and then -1. So the next number I would see, I've got a -3, -5, -7. So -3, -5, and then -7. -3, -5, and -7. All right, guys. So again, one thing that is extremely helpful is using a number line. So my at-home kids, I highly recommend that you draw a number line, or even find a visual on the internet, Google number line, and you can just save it to your iPad or your desktop, whatever you're using, and you can always have it to refer back to, because it is helpful whenever you're comparing and putting them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. So remember, guys, positives, don't second guess the positive. The bigger the number, the bigger the value. But on negatives, it's actually the opposite. The bigger the number, the less the value, because you're getting further and further away from 0. The farther away from 0 you get, the smaller the value of the number. All right, guys. Hope that was helpful. Please let me know if y'all have any questions at all. Contact me on Zoom, through Canvas, or let me know here in class. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.